The lungs. Returning to the anatomy of the upper respiratory system as we descend from the mouth and nose, we arrive at the trachea, or windpipe. The trachea is a rigid tube held open by C-shaped rings made of hard cartilage. This rigidity is essential. Without it, the trachea would collapse every time we took a breath. The trachea divides into two bronchi, which split into the right and left lungs. The bronchi continue to divide into bronchioles, and this division happens 20 to 25 more times, creating an airway system that looks similar to the roots of a tree. The bronchioles end in sac-like structures called alveoli, where the majority of gas exchange takes place. To recap, air passes through the upper airways, down the trachea, and into the bronchioles. The bronchioles divide and get smaller, like branches of a tree, until they terminate at the alveoli. The alveoli are surrounded by capillary beds where gas is exchanged. Hemoglobin-carrying red blood cells pick up oxygen and bring it to the heart, where it is pumped throughout the body. When the red blood cells get to deoxygenated tissue, the oxygen is exchanged for carbon dioxide, which is then returned to the lungs via the heart to be expelled from the upper airways out the nose and mouth. Men's lungs hold about 6 liters of air, while the average women's lungs hold about 4.5 liters. Women's lungs are usually 20 to 25% smaller than men's. These values are general, and different textbooks might have different numbers, so please don't get caught up in these values. Your lung volume might be completely different. Total lung capacity also depends on a person's age, height, weight, history of smoking, athletic training or conditioning habits, and numerous other factors. Despite these general numbers, we have the ability to change our vital lung capacity. In other words, how much air we can inhale and how deeply we can exhale. Whether it is possible to stretch lung tissue is a point of contention among researchers, but either way, we can stretch the thoracic cavity that contains the lungs. Think about blowing up a balloon inside a glass jar. The size of the balloon is limited to the size of the jar. Our chest and lungs share a similar relationship. World record-holding freediver Stig Severinsen's lungs can hold 14 liters, which he attributes to the breathing exercises he does to increase his ability to hold his breath for extended periods. The amount of air we displace during normal breathing, or the unconscious breathing we do at rest, is called tidal volume, and it's usually about 1/10 of the total lung capacity, or around 500 milliliters, or half a liter. This is an average for both men and women. Men's tidal volume is typically between 550 and 650 milliliters. For women, it's 450 to 550. When breathing normally, we breathe from the mid-range of our lungs. From the upper limit of our tidal volume to our maximum inhalation is called the inspiratory reserve volume, and this is about 3 liters or 3,000 milliliters. From the lower limit of our tidal volume, where the diaphragm is relaxed, to the maximum forced exhalation is called the expiratory reserve volume, which is about 1.5 liters or 1,500 milliliters. Even after we exhale as much as we can, we still have about 1 liter or 1,000 milliliters of air left in our lungs. This is called the residual volume. The residual volume keeps the alveolar sacs from collapsing and keeps enough air in the lungs so the oxygen exchange can happen even after we exhale or while we are holding our breath after exhaling. When we start at the bottom limit of our maximum exhalation and inhale until we reach the top limit of our maximum inhalation, that's called vital lung capacity. Our vital lung capacity is essentially the total amount of air we can forcefully move in one breath. Vital capacity significantly impacts health, and it is one of the areas we will focus on improving with the practices in this book. Having a low vital capacity puts us at a higher risk of respiratory disease, and it is directly related to mortality rate. Our vital capacity naturally decreases with age, but increasing vital capacity has been shown to help slow the aging process.